minutes. Before we begin the seminar, I would like to let you know the session will be conducted in English and Korean. Simultaneous interpretation will be available in both languages. You can set your language by clicking the interpretation button, which looks like a globe, in the meeting controls below. Participants here, the channels on your receivers are 1 for Korean and 2 for English. Also, I would like to bring your attention to the survey we distributed via email. For those of you who have not taken part in the survey yet, please do check the link in the chat room and complete the survey. This is a short questionnaire on your thoughts on the themes that we'll cover in this seminar, and it will greatly contribute to the panel discussion for each seminar day. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second session of the 2022 online thematic seminar on management challenges of internationally designated areas, organized by the Korean National Commission for UNESCO, Yeoncheon-gun District, and MAP National Committee of Republic of Korea, with the support of the Korean Ministry of Environment and the Korean National Park Service. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, my name is Hyun-Suk Seo. I'm the Director of the Sciences and Youth Division at Korean National Commission for UNESCO. And I have the honor of welcoming you all to this seminar. I would like to express my sincere thanks to all of you for joining us from all over the world for this online meeting. We'll now begin the second day of the seminar. As previously announced, today we will have a keynote speech and two different case presentations on establishment and use of the local identity and brand of IDAs. In addition, we'll have a panel discussion among all presenters, together with one additional invited panelist at the end. If you come up with any questions during the seminar, please leave a comment in the Zoom chat and we will gladly discuss them at the end of the session. Before I hand the floor to Professor McKeith, I have one request to all the participants to check your name in the Zoom screen and rename yourself correctly. This will be crucial for us to proceed with the Q&A session. Thank you for your kind cooperation in advance. Now, I would like to introduce Professor Patrick McKeith, our keynote speaker on today's topic. Professor McKeith is currently the only special advisor to the Global Geoparks Network on geopark development. Additionally, for the International Union for Conservation of Nature, he co-led a revision of the advice for countries seeking nominations to the World Heritage List for geological sites. With his expertise and experience as the former secretary of the International Geoscience and Geoparks Program and head of Earth Science and Geohazard Risk Reduction at UNESCO, he is now concentrating on establishing UNESCO global geoparks in areas of the world where there are none or few, and encouraging deepening networking between UNESCO global geoparks through the Global Geoparks Network. Please give him a warm welcome. Professor McKeith, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. To share my screen. Everybody see that okay? Is that okay?
Yes, we can see it perfectly fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody from Europe. I'm actually currently in Spain for a few days, and so I hope the Wi-Fi here should be okay. I was asked to give a talk about branding in UNESCO sites. I don't have so much experience of biosphere reserves. I'm going to largely concentrate on the geoparks and World Heritage sites. You can see here my local World Heritage site, which is a geological one, John's Causeway on the north coast of Ireland. Just a brief introduction to World Heritage for those who maybe are less familiar. The idea of protecting our heritage emerged after World War II. And in 1972, the World Heritage Convention developed by the merging of two movements, one focusing on the preservation of cultural sites. I'm thinking in particular of the sites in the Nile Valley, and the other dealing with the conservation of nature. So while the convention was signed in 72, it wasn't until 1975 that the first 20 countries, or state parties as we call them, actually formally ratified. And in that same year, the first 12 sites were inscribed onto the new World Heritage List. And the first one was the Galapagos Islands of Ecuador. Today, across 167 countries, there are over 1,150 properties on the World Heritage List. Most of those are cultural properties. 3 properties have actually been delisted, one in Yemen, one in the United Kingdom, and one in Germany. And another 52 are in danger. As I'm from Ireland, I can say we have 3 World Heritage properties, whereas the Republic of Korea, which is about the same size and area as Ireland, has 15 properties. And here in the picture, you can see a geological World Heritage site from Canada. It's in Stephen Point, one of the more recent sites inscribed. Outstanding universal value is key to success in a World Heritage nomination. And the latest version of the guidelines were updated in 2019. And a key phrase from those guidelines states that the convention is not intended to ensure the protection of all properties of great interest, importance, or value, but only a select list. Those ones that are most outstanding from an international point of view. And it shouldn't be assumed that because the site is of national value that it would be inscribed in the World Heritage List. Outstanding universal value is defined by 1 or more of 10 criteria. 6 are cover cultural properties, while 4 cover natural properties. For those of geological interest, is criterion 8 that demonstrates what is meant by universal value. And you can see the definition there on the bottom of the screen. Now, interestingly, since the signing of the World Heritage Convention, 93 properties have been inscribed using the geological criterion. However, only 21 out of that 1,154 have been described solely for their geological value. And to reflect that imbalance somewhat, 22 years ago, 4 areas in Europe came together to declare themselves what was known as European geoparks. In 2004, at a meeting of the International Geoscience Programme in UNESCO in Paris, by then the 17 European geoparks were brought together with 8 geoparks in China to create the Global Geoparks Network and the label Global Geoparks. However, the relationship between the Global Geoparks and UNESCO was not formal. There was nothing legal about it. They were not UNESCO geoparks in any shape or form. But starting in about 2009, member states in UNESCO started to wonder, well, shouldn't they become a formal UNESCO designation? And that culminated in the year 2015, when UNESCO, by acclamation, adopted the new International Geoscience and Geoparks Programme, which also recognized the new designation of UNESCO Global Geopark. And all the existing geoparks at the time were then given this new label of UNESCO Global Geopark. Currently, there's 177 in 46 countries. But what actually is the difference between, say, a geological World Heritage Site and a UNESCO Global Geopark? Well, unlike the World Heritage Convention, the geoparks does not involve an international convention, treaty, or agreement. It doesn't impose any legal restrictions on local communities. So there's no core zone, there's no buffer zone, the way you might have in a biosphere reserve. There are no development restrictions. The only criterion really is that the geological sites which give the geopark international value must have protection under international, national, indigenous law, whichever is appropriate. UNESCO Global Geoparks cannot be serial sites, so you can't have a bit here and another bit there, another bit somewhere else. You have to be single unified geographical areas. And also, they can't be a wilderness area. They have to have a living population within the territory itself. And the geopark isn't just about geology. Geology or geological heritage is at the core of it, but as many of you know, geodiversity will dictate biodiversity. It would also dictate many instances the cultural diversity as well. People who live in mountainous areas will farm differently from people who live in areas of limestone. So the geology really is at the core of all this. And it's that aspect of heritage that's celebrated within the geopark. Now, geoparks are fundamentally about people, and it's about respecting the Sustainable Development Goals. Geoparks really reach out just well beyond the mere involvement in local stakeholders. Geoparks actually empower local people. They give them that sense of pride, that sense of ownership. And as an example, this lady here from Yangantao in the Russian Federation, she lived most of her life, she's a local school teacher, most of her life beside one of the most important geological sites in this area, but had no idea of its scientific importance. She knew there was something strange because the different types of geology here allowed different types of herbs to grow in the different types of soil, all related to the geology. And so now she is so proud that right beside her home is one of the key geological sites. You can see she has the branded uniform of the Yangantao Geopark. She has been trained to be a geopark ambassador, to take tour guides. She has been given the geological knowledge, but she also has her own knowledge of the area, the knowledge of growing up there, the cultural heritage, the biodiversity. I mentioned about the herbs that grow there. And she's one of quite a few geopark rangers, geopark ambassadors that are now earning money, earning part-time living in this geopark with the brand. And you can see she has the headscarf, so it represents her cultural background as well. And this geopark is really doing very, very well indeed. So the geoparks reflect the territory's earth heritage, its traditions, local tales, songs, local dialect, all of these things. Another difference really between World Heritage Sites and indeed biosphere reserves, I guess, and geoparks is it's really compulsory that all geoparks have to talk to each other. They cannot exist in isolation. I know that the biospheres is the World Network of Biosphere Reserves, but in the geoparks, these networks are very active. For example, the European network meets twice a year, and they form common projects. They share experiences, both positive and negative. And we see the same happening in the Asia Pacific network, in the GeoLive, which covers Latin America and the Caribbean, and in Canada. And then every 2 years, they all come together in the global conference. So this is a very dynamic, it's not an optional extra for geoparks, it's compulsory. If you don't do this, then you could lose the designation of UNESCO Global Geopark. And that has happened. That has happened simply because the territory was not networking. So this is a checklist, I suppose, that I put together for a recent IUCN publication, which goes through the different questions you might ask between World Heritage properties and geoparks. For example, on the left-hand side, well, who can apply? For World Heritage property, it's any country that has signed the convention. So it's a country that has to apply for it. And for the geopark, it's any country that's simply a member of UNESCO. You can see for the geological value, it must have outstanding universal value. Whereas for geoparks, it has to have international value, and that's determined by our colleagues on the International Union of Geological Sciences. Submission can only be done if a site for World Heritage is on its tentative list, and that has to be done through the country itself, the state party. Whereas for geoparks, it's a bit less formal than that it just goes through the National Commission or whichever organization has official relationships with UNESCO. And you can see on the right-hand side, various questions about application timelines, review process. So every 6 years, a World Heritage Site has to submit a periodic report, whereas for geoparks, it's every 4 years. And it's a traffic light system, if you like. So it's a red light means, okay, this is useless, and you get delisted. It could be a yellow light or amber light. And that means, well, there's some problems here and you've got 2 years to fix that, or the light will turn red. Or for most geoparks, what they hope for, of course, is the green card. And that means that everything's working well, local community aren't involved, and you get renewed for another 4-year period. This is what's called the decision tree. So these are various things that you ask a question. Okay, in terms of value, does this geological area have outstanding universal value? If it's yes, then it can be either World Heritage or Geopark. If it's no, then it can still be a geopark, but it can't be World Heritage. And the same for integrity, lead and and management and timetable. So you can go through all that and answer the various questions. Now, something very interesting has happened in UNESCO in the last year. Some of you will know, I guess you'll all know now. I know that Magma know because they're using the new logo. Just over a year ago, UNESCO went through a very thorough rebranding exercise. So in the context of that rebranding exercise, this talk is actually very timely indeed. So prior to 2021, you can see that each of the 3 site designations had their own logo. Now, in actual fact, these are not the correct logos because they should have the UNESCO temple logo on the left-hand side. It's called the combined logo. And you can't use that. You can't use these logos without the temple logo. So it always had to be the combined logo. Post 2022, everything to do with UNESCO, all the programs, the site designations, the conventions, all have this similar logo that you can see here. So I want to go through through my travels, what I've seen in terms of branding of World Heritage sites and biosphere reserves, geoparks, and then maybe have a look at well, of course, we can't say the impact of this new branding because it's just a year old, but I want to give you some examples of where the UNESCO site or the theme of a UNESCO site has given its identity to a territory. So here are examples of some World Heritage sites that I've come across in my travels. The first one is Teotihuacan in Mexico. Just outside Mexico City, you see these wonderful temples. And you can see on the right-hand side the logo that they're using. Yes, they mention UNESCO, but they show just the World Heritage logo. They do not show the combined logo. Similarly, in the city of Morelia, also Mexico, you can see the same setup. It's the coat of arms of the Mexican Federation, plus the World Heritage logo. Now, I remember being in many meetings in UNESCO and communications and information, and some of the people there were really quite annoyed, especially because World Heritage is so high profile, that they weren't using the temple logo. They were not using, they were just using this logo. I want to give you a few more examples. Because remember, World Heritage is probably the most high profile thing UNESCO does. Now, I'm not sure if you can make this out. This is the Dorset and East Devon World Heritage site of England. We call it the Jurassic Coast. And this is one of the plaque. It's an information board. And if you look on this, at the top right-hand corner, you can see the World Heritage logo. But in this, I can remember there was no mention of UNESCO at all. Just that tiny logo. And on another board from the same World Heritage site, you see where it says the Dorset and East Devon Coast World Heritage Site. And just to the left of it, tiny, tiny, tiny World Heritage logo, but no mention of UNESCO whatsoever. Missed opportunity, I think, for the organization, although, of course, they don't have jurisdiction over this. Some other places, this is Istanbul in Sri Lanka. And here you can see that again, it's just the World Heritage logo. I do not speak Sinhalese, so I have no idea what it says around that. But again, there's no mention of UNESCO, no logo, and no temple logo. Angkor Wat in Cambodia, the same thing. Was there many years ago, and I remember going around the site. And the only logo I could see was on this board to the right, which is actually referring to Japanese Funds and Trust. It's a donation from the Japanese government to assist in the conservation project of this really truly wonderful site in Cambodia. Of course, we're in Korea, so Korea always does things correctly. And here we see that it's very clear that this is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. You can see that they have the logo, the name, it's a certificate that comes from the Director General. You can see here one of the information boards from Ichilbong, and you can see there the correct logo, the correct branding of the World Heritage Site. And again, here in the office in Jeju, they have the correct branding as well. Now, these are just a few other examples of branding in World Heritage Sites. The first one is myself and a colleague at Þingvellir in Iceland. And this is the board. It has the combined logo. This is correct branding. This is in Ngorongoro in Tanzania, which actually has all three labels now. This was before it became a geopark, but there's no logo as such. It just refers to World Heritage Site, Biosphere Reserve. There's no mention of UNESCO whatsoever, and no branding really. Here we are, Taishan, with some of my colleagues from IUCN, and here you see the same. It's the World Heritage logo on its own. This is in Arles in the south of France, same issue. And this is the historic center of Quebec City, where on the plinth, on the information board there, again, it's just the World Heritage logo. And as I want just to remind you that it's many discussions in UNESCO with the people that did the branding, that are in charge of branding, they were really not happy about this, because these are not just World Heritage Sites, they're UNESCO World Heritage Sites. And, you know, if you go out into the street in some of these places and ask them, have you ever heard of UNESCO? They should have, because these are famous sites, but most people haven't. They have no idea what UNESCO is. And you say, oh, you know, the people that do the World Heritage Sites, and then they look at you a bit strange, and then you say, like the pyramids of Egypt, the Great Wall of China, and then they go, ah, yeah, we know who you mean now. Shouldn't be like that. So I don't have much to say about biosphere reserves. I just gave you some examples from my own country and our neighbour country. In Ireland, we've got 2 biosphere reserves. They've recently been rebranded, the Dublin Bay Biosphere Reserve. And it was actually in the news just last week, and there was no mention of it as a biosphere reserve. There's no visibility to it. The Kerry Biosphere Reserve is better known as Killarney National Park. Nobody knows it's a biosphere reserve. And the 2 official brands that you see here with the NAB logo are nowhere to be seen. There's no visibility, nothing. In our neighbour country in Scotland, they've got 2 biosphere reserves. The Wester Ross is the new one. I've not been at that one. But interestingly, my brother and his wife and family live inside the Galloway and Southern Ayrshire Biosphere Reserve. So I was able to tap their brain and ask them, well, do you know you're in a biosphere reserve? They do. And they said, well, the first year, 2 years, nothing happened. There was nothing. But now things are starting to happen, and we can see the sign in a few places as well. So that's a good starting with the Galloway and Southern Ayrshire Biosphere Reserve in Scotland. Now, what about branding in geoparks? It's a little bit different, because before we became UNESCO Global Geoparks, we really did insist on branding. We really did. This was part of the revalidation. You know, if tourists went to this geopark and left not knowing they had visited a geopark, it was a yellow card during the revalidation. So this is one of my geoparks in Ireland. It's the Burren and Cliffs of Moher. This is the information boards they have. You can see in the top left, they have their own logo. So this is the local branding, but as well as that, they have the international branding, the temple logo, the combined logo. They have gateway signage as you enter the geoparks, such as you can see here. Again, you have the local branding, and then the combined branding that's bilingual, because Ireland's a bilingual country. I'm sure Sarah's going to talk a lot about GeoFood, which is such a wonderful initiative. We had a Geopark network meeting here a few years back, and we were able to taste some of the local produce. This was before the Burren joined the GeoFood project. And this is one of the archaeological sites. But I think what's most significant for the people who live in this geopark is this. These are the local people. These are the local crafts people, the local food producers, the local farming community. With their certificates, they have signed up to the Geopark Code of Practice. They can use the logo, they can use the Geopark uniform. This is branding at the local level. And this is where you see the success, because these are local people really signing up to this whole Geopark idea. Going down to South America, I think we have some colleagues from Mexico joining us. And this is with the Palacio in Uruguay. And again, it's the same thing, information boards. You can see the international branding, the combined logo, and then you can see the local branding. Same here. And this is more GeoFood, this is more local produce. They have the local brand of the Geopark here. They can't use the UNESCO logo, of course, this produce is for sale. And again, there's the gateway signage. The gateway signage, which involves the international brand and the local brand which can go on uniforms and et cetera, et cetera. Tumbler Ridge in Canada is an interesting example because, of course, this is an indigenous geopark, if you like. And if I just run through some of these slides, you can see here's an information board. You can see in the bottom right, the local brand of Tumbler Ridge, it's a dinosaur, plus the international brand, the combined logo. And you can see here that this information board is about one of the First Nation peoples of this part of Canada. The same here, the languages of the animals and different First Nation languages. And this is another ranger, another local person, Jenna, who's working for the Geopark, and she is actually First Nation herself. So this is a very good example of where the Indigenous knowledge is going into developing the Geopark, and again, with the necessary branding in place. Now, I'm coming to the end of this, but there's a few things that have been very interesting in the development of the geoparks over the last few years. Firstly, we've had buy-in from local municipalities. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the district of Down, or Landkreis in German, Landkreis Down, dates back to 1815, when the Eifel region became part of Prussia. The district then was significantly enlarged about 50 years ago to add the districts of Prüm and Mayeb, and they were added to this Landkreis Down, or this county Down, the local municipality. In 1996, the world's very first geopark was created here in the town of Gerolstein. It was just a very small town, Gerolstein, and it's in the heart of this district of Down. Initially, it was called Geopark Gerolstein, but it was soon renamed the Geopark Vulkaneifel to reflect the geological heritage of this area. And as the years went by, this geopark was subsequently enlarged, which meant that its territory was more or less exactly the same as that of the municipality of Down. As the geopark became better and better at its operation, geopark terminology was becoming more used, the local municipality voted to change the name of the municipality from Down to rename it as Vulkaneifel. The local county is now called Vulkaneifel after the geopark, not the other way around. So we started with this, and now we have this. So there's an interesting example of local community buy-in, if you like. But the final example I want to give to you is from my own place in the north of Ireland, where something very spectacular has happened. It's very crazy. It's to do with World Heritage. So this is buy-in from regions. Now, it's hard to define why this has happened. I don't know. The Giant's Causeway, which was the first photo I showed you, has all these hexagonal basaltic columns. It's Ireland's only natural World Heritage site. It's inscribed in 1985. It's situated in the north coast. It's also Northern Ireland's premier tourist attraction. It gets over 1 million people every year. I'm happy to say that the branding in terms of UNESCO is absolutely fine. A few years ago, they opened a new visitor centre. It's all great. But of course, the Giant's Causeway is formed from thousands of hexagonal columns of hardened lava. Now, you see this in many places. In Iceland, you see it in Calmarca Minera in Mexico spectacularly. You see it, of course, on Jeju very spectacularly as well. But somehow or another in Northern Ireland, it's got into people's heads. And this hexagonal shape, this branding of the Giant's Causeway World Heritage Site, is now used right across Northern Ireland for everything. It brands the regional government, it brands the region's transport company, banks and local authorities. And I'll just show you, this is the logo of the Northern Ireland government. Hexagonal basalt, little columns of basalt. This is one of the main banks, the Northern Bank. And look, hexagonal column of basalt. No. Okay, this is one of the local authorities, local municipality, recently renamed. It's now called Causeway Coast and Glens. And there we go. There's the hexagonal column again. This is again, all of the local government departments share this logo, different colors, but this is Department of Communities. Very recently, and I'm talking just 2 months ago, the public transport company, TransLink, rebranded itself. There we go, it's the hexagonal basalt column again, it's everywhere. And finally, it should come as no surprise that the Tourism Promotion Authority, Tourism NI, have this embrace a giant spur, Giant's Causeway, and in the middle, there it is, the hexagonal column of basalt. So this is where the branding of this UNESCO World Heritage Site has seeped into a very regional level. I have never come across this anywhere else in the world, and I don't know what has happened in Ireland, but it's there. So I just want to finish up. I can't finish a talk in Korea without showing my two very, very special ladies from Jeju with their uniform to local people who became involved in the geopark and became some of the first geopark rangers in Jeju. So I'll finish, of course, by saying, 감사합니다. Thank you, merci in French, it's the other UNESCO language, and my own language, Guramayagat. Thank you very much.
감사합니다. Thank you, Professor McKeep. Thank you very much for your interesting and informative presentation. Now, I would be grateful if you could take the floor once again to chair the next session, which will feature 2 case presentations and a panel discussion on today's topic. Professor McKeep, you have the floor once again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. So I'd like to thank you all for joining today's online thematic seminar. And I would also like to especially thank, of course, the National Commission of the Republic of Korea for putting this together. And it's wonderful to see such an international participation, really, from right across the world. It's fantastic. Now, I'd like to introduce a very good friend of mine. I've known Sarah for 12 years, Sarah Gentilini, Dr. Sarah Gentilini. She's project manager at the Magma UNESCO Global Geopark in Norway. And she's also the inventor of the wonderful GeoFood initiative. She's going to deliver a case note presentation on the use of local identity to develop a geological brand in Magma UNESCO Global Geopark. I should describe her GeoFood initiative aims to support food producers and restaurants within UNESCO Global Geoparks around the world. So please, please, please give Sarah a very warm welcome, like me, who's on holiday in Spain. She's on holiday in our home country of Italy. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Patrick, and thank you very much to the National Commission of Korea for the invitation. And I'm going to share my screen. Here we are. So yes, as Patrick said, and I thank him very much, my name is Sara Gentilini. I'm project manager in Magma UNESCO Global Geopark, one of the 3 UNESCO Global Geopark in Norway. Magma Geopark is located southwest of Norway, close to Stavanger, which is the main city, just 1.5 hours by train. Magma Geopark is about 2,326 kilometers square of unique geological heritage. We become UNESCO Global Geopark in 2010, and we just got our revalidation this summer. And we are crossing our finger that will right. Magma Geopark activities are embracing several fields. As every UNESCO Global Geopark, we work on building infrastructure in the area to valorize our unique geological heritage. We geological exploitation. We empower local communities. We promote tourist activity. We work on educational program. We are actually active in research and innovation. I'm just about to finish in 20 days my PhD, and the PhD was about studying the abiotic ecosystem services in Magma UNESCO Global Geopark and in another UNESCO Global Geopark in Italy. Plus, we are running an EGCP project, which has been recently awarded by the EGCP program, and I'm going to talk about it later to you. We are developing also projects that are focused on climate change adaptation. Of course, local food with the GeoFood, the cultural heritage. We work on art and festival. We are developing our pilgrim route. We are also networking, I think, quite a lot around the world. Like we get invitation to these wonderful initiatives, and we are actively participating in, I can say, most of the global geopark event. We are developing several synergies and panels. We have 46 geopark locations. The definition of geopark location in Magma is that every geosite which is accessible by the public, we provide it with infrastructures like signboard, parking, and even toilets. So actually we develop 46 of those sites. 30 or 46 have been completed so far. We develop several general information signboard, banner, flag, and this is how our main general signboard look alike. We have as Patrick previously presented, the new logo of UNESCO has been implemented in our signboard. We have an explanation of the network and of what UNESCO Global Geopark is in 2 languages, in Norwegian and in English. Plus, we have the list of our localities, and we have now just started to promote our new brand, which is Walk on the Moon. Because working in Magma Geopark, we are selling it to the municipality, to the county, and they love it. Like the idea that a tourist coming to Magma Geopark can have the experience to walk on the moon due to the anorthosite rock, which is the same rock that is visible on the surface of the moon. We, of course, develop the Leave Nothing But Footprints, which is our motto for respecting the nature and the natural heritage. You can find the app, you find our active partners, our proud owners, and several tourist trails that you can walk by yourself, getting information through the app. Recently, I have to say, 5 months ago, we got a big achievement when every of the 5 municipality Magma Geopark decided to have this flag on the country hall. So the county hall is now is now provided by a huge Magma Geopark flag with the new UNESCO logo, and for sure this increased the visibility enormously of the geopark. Every single citizen is wondering now what Magma Geopark is, and we have 80% of the people getting to the 5 tourist information since we ran some kind of questionnaire. They replied that 80% of those replied that they know that they are living and they are experiencing a UNESCO Global Geopark. So we are very proud of this result after, let's say, 15 years of a hard job. We develop, of course, material. We have geobike. We have 6 biking routes that crossing the geopark, and recently the municipality also opened a bike sharing for exploring the several geosites, a bike that you can rent at the station. We have run several promotional initiatives, like providing every single house in Magma Geopark with a brochure where we inform who we are and what we're doing. We have developed a storyline together with Katla, UNESCO Global Geopark, Greenland and Faroes. We have developed the same common storyline on the top, which is the storyline of the Earth, and on the bottom we have been focusing on the specific period that are characterizing the geology of Magma Geopark. And each single partner did the same, and at the moment there are 4 geological storylines having the same design displaying several parts of the Nordic countries, including the Magma Geopark office and the new Magma Geopark Science Museum, which has just now been opened. Since the presentation and the day of today is about branding and local brand, I must briefly introduce the Ruritage project, which has been a huge kick and a huge support for Magma Geopark. It is a Horizon 2020 project. Horizon is a program which is financed by European Union that in particular this research project support 38 partners from 18 countries, and has been led by the University of Bologna in Italy. And the main idea was to transform rural areas into laboratories for sustainable development. And Magma Geopark has been selected as a role model for as a replicator for local food. Through this project, we managed to strengthen our local network. This picture is similar to the picture that Patrick shows about the Barren. We've been signing again contract with and developing criteria for becoming active partner in Magma Geopark, and we strengthen the local network of not only of local producers, which are here displayed, but also local providers like accommodations, like tourist providers that provide outdoor activities. So we have now a network of local people which are very engaged on developing together the activity of the geopark. Through the Ruritage, we work a lot with local communities through serious game. Politicians sit at the table and play the Ruritania game, which was a game, a role game that engaged them into the finding decision for their communities and improve their communication and improve the way of exchanging problem and finding solutions in Magma Geopark. Here you can see them working, and they are choosing together and discussing our action plan, an action plan that lasts for 4 years, the whole length of the project. Here we have also a meeting with investors, possible private investors that would love to invest in Magma Geopark activities. And through the project, we also use Rate My View, a very useful app that allow you to capture, rate it, upload and share it, the landscape around you, to make local people or local inhabitants more aware of their own heritage. We also have this very interesting walking map activities involving local communities. We walk in the nature, and we are making them collecting elements from the nature to make them feeling closer to the geopark as possible. We have very successful middle and final meetings where we present the project, we present Magma, we present the new tourist strategy for the next 4 years based on local food and local peculiarities. Here we have the final event where we can taste the geofood, of course, and all the local products. One of the main achievements was the opening of a small but very successful local market, which means local food shop in Egersund, which is the main town of Magma Geopark. We opened the shop, and 12 local producers participate to the selling of the product in the geopark. It seems something rather small, but in reality is something rather it was very hard to get to this point, to make farmers working together in a rural area like Magma Geopark. It has been very hard, but it seems that we finally managed. So this boutique, this shop has such a success that the local entrepreneur, the local Grand Hotel want to invest in it, and now it is a stable selling of local product in the town, opening every day. To us is a big achievement. Of course, we develop, as I said, an app, and in the app you can find all the local producer and all the local food and the local specialities, which are also promoted into the web page of Magma Geopark with their own local story. We developed tourist route, 2 food trails, one linked with geofood that I'm going to introduce you shortly what it is, and one is called Smak Magma, which means taste magma. We involve about 15 partners and many geopark localities. We link it together so people can explore the beauty of Magma Geopark and at the same time taste local product. Are very easy and quick itineraries, but they link together specific places where people can experience the real, let's say, the real Magma Geopark experience. These are the leaflets that we develop, which are available online and we distribute to our partners. And here there is a specific trail that is called Oplev Magma, Discover Magma, where we connected the archaeological trail in Magma Geopark. And finally is the geofood, just finally, but not because it's the less important, but because just a pure order on the slide. Anyway, what is geofood? Geofood is about geopark, people, nature, and food. Geofood, it's an initiative, it's a project that born in Magma UNESCO Global Geopark in 2015. It's a brand owned and invented by Magma Geopark, and I have to say here that it doesn't have any connection with UNESCO. There are no obligation to get into geofood if you become UNESCO Global Geopark, of course. It is initiatives that take its roots within the values of UNESCO Global Geopark, values of supporting local communities and enhancing geological heritage in connection with natural heritage, telling story about people, and make geology spread the geological heritage around through story linked with the food. At the moment, we have 21 countries and 34 members all around the world. This is the network that you can find in the webpage, which is www.geofood.no. You see we have Norway, Canada, Malaysia, Chile, Italy, and recently Brazil with the Serido UNESCO Global Geopark joint network. What we do inside this project, in the page we promote UNESCO Global Geopark, we promote UNESCO Global Geopark value in connection with sustainability, sustainable development. We say that geopark are pioneers of sustainable development, that they are, of course, contributing to the achievement of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. We have a blog where we collect the stories of the local producer and the story of the geopark linked with food and culture related with food and geology. And we promote a single producer. Each single producer I have to say the GeoFood is only for UNESCO Global Geopark territories, which are already got inside the network. What is most important is the storytelling. Basically, we want to provide each product and each menu in the restaurant with the storytelling that tells the connection between the geological heritage and the raw material and the raw food material. There is, of course, strong connection with the local heritage, the community, and the old tradition. We have developed the manifesto and criteria. Criteria are very, very wide. Is really the most important criteria for GeoFood is that all the raw material must come from the UNESCO Global Geopark territory. We want to enhance the use of kilometer zero food in order to reduce CO2 emission in one side and support the local producers on the other side, which is one of the main goals of UNESCO Global Geopark. At the same time, we also promote GeoFood restaurant that need to serve at least one seasonal menu. And we are very much working on United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, because as I just mentioned, not only GeoFood work within the global Geopark network and the values that are implicit into it, but we also work together with the UNESCO Global Geopark that we are belonging to the achievement of United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. I'm not going through each United Nations Sustainable Development Goal that GeoFood is contributing to, just to give you an idea of the connection that there are between job creation, creativity, cultural and natural heritage safeguarding, the implementation of sustainable consumption, the valorization of traditional endogenous animal species, and you can take a look later and we can discuss it more in detail if you like. Anyway, there are 3 fields of action of GeoFood. Tourism and promotion of environmental friendly local food and tradition, education, which is basic for UNESCO Global Geopark and consequently also for GeoFood. We want to share the Geopark values and the sustainability values, and research and innovation. We anchoring and boosting the GeoFood brand with the strategies, networking in order to, as I said, anchoring to scientific studies and scientific research. In tourism and promotion, as I said, we have been developing a manifesto. The manifesto is based on the main European strategy from farm to fork, on the FAO main principle about promoting the use of local plates and traditions that are basically disappearing, and the geopark we think should be a kind of place where people work for its preservation. We developed the manual for the use of the brand. The brand cannot be put together with any UNESCO brand, of course, because that's not a law for commercial purpose. So it's very clear on the GeoFood style guide. We recommend the use of the GeoFood together with UNESCO Global Geopark brand, because if you have the logo of the Geopark and the logo of the GeoFood, you understand better the connection between geology, food, and local development. And of course, we have a registration form for registering each GeoFood members and each GeoFood participant for each of the members inside the network. We run 2 or 3 webinars per year where we ask our colleagues to show their results and to show the implementation of the brand. And basically, we are implementing the webpage and the social media. Here there are the leaflet and information that the partners translate in their own languages. So we have a common leaflet, what is GeoFood and the GeoFood vision, mission, what is UNESCO, what are UNESCO Global Geopark leaflet that is being translated in several languages and is available on the webpage. And as I said, we promote at the moment 43 restaurants, 2 food trails, and about 70 producers, which are actually much more potentially, but we just included into the webpage the one that are ready with storytelling and the brand implemented into the packages. Mago UNESCO Global Geopark, I will show you some example very quickly. As I show you, we have a shop, we have an app, we have several tools. We develop this tourist food trail where people can find in the landscape short information about some endangered cattle breed or specific wild sheep, which are specific only in the area of Magma Geopark. We can say that Mudeungsang and UNESCO Global Geopark is working very well with local communities, developing geofood on local menus, and developing geofood and the connection between the Korean liquor made only from 2 types of rice that grow near the Cheongshong Geo Village, which is covered with the soil from the mountain Mudeungsang. So this is a very good example of the connection between the geology and the food, which is exactly what we want to promote, and the menu on the right. We have, of course, Romania. We have all the UNESCO Global Geopark in Portugal. They are doing a fantastic job promoting UNESCO Global Geopark and serving geofood label product and explanation, again, about the connection with culture, geology, and UNESCO Global Geopark. In a fair in Portugal, Barron and Cliff and Moore in Ireland, they are they have been implementing geofood and they are doing great with many producers that are really taking seriously and taking very much into account the sustainability value even before geofood, but they just integrated geofood into a strategy that was already in place, as Patrick showed you.
Sarah, 2 minutes left.
Yes,
sorry.
I finished. Toscamani Geopark, they branded their wine and they explain the history and the connection with the soil, and the same with the pasta and the biscuit. They did a very good job also in Novograd Horad in Hungary, Slovakia, in Idra in Slovenia. In Langkawi, they labeled the water, which has been a big achievement for the local communities. Now the water is can be drink also local water and not only imported from the main countryside. They is saving a lot of CO2. Las Loras in Spain is doing great, of course. And in Finland, we have a couple of partners, Rokwa and Lanahuori, which are working very well. We work in geofood, we work in education. And of course, Faroe and Greenland are only potential aspiring geoparks, so they don't use the brand, but they've been cooperating with us to collecting stories, local stories connected with the food and nature. We developed this game, which is available online in our webpage. Every of you can download it and you can play geofood game at your school to understand the importance of local nature and local resources for developing product and for working in a geopark. As I said, the EGCP 726 Geofood for Sustainable Development has been awarded the best project in 2021, and we are now running it with 49 partners from 26 countries, and it aims at strengthening. Here we are, and this is what we are doing, and please follow us on social media, and I'm here if you have any question. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sarah. That was a very thorough presentation. I'm grateful you were able to get through all those slides, more or less on time, just a bit over, but very interesting. And I see in the chat there are lots of comments, and a colleague in China is very interested in this. And I know that I don't think there's any of the Chinese geoparks yet within the GeoFood initiative. So that could be a big opportunity. We'll have time for questions, of course, after the next presentation. And for that, I'd like to introduce the case presentation of Sibodas Biosphere Reserve from Indonesia. Our next presenter is Mr. Adam. Yeah.
I find this on the web.
Forest ecosystem specialist. Could everybody else just mute their microphones? Thank you. Our next presenter is Mr. Adi Baga Hediat, a forest ecosystem specialist, and also a forest guardian at Gunung Gede Panggoro National Geopark. I think Gunung means cave in Bahasa, Indonesia. And he'll speak about the establishment and the use of local identity and local brand in the Sibodas Biosphere Reserve. Mr. Hediat's been working in the Biosphere Reserve, the National Park, actually since 2000, so 22 years. His professional experience includes ecotourism, sustainable natural resource utilization, conservation education, community development, and he's been specially recognized by the Map Network of Indonesia for his work in the development of the brand of this biosphere reserve. Mr. Hidiat, you've got 20 minutes. Can I ask everybody else to turn off their microphones because I can hear people in the background? Mr. Hidiat, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. I would like to share screen. Thank you very much. Good afternoon from Cibodas. My name, what Professor Pratik said, my name is Adebagja Hidayat. I'm come from Gunung Gede Pang National Park, Cibodas Biosphere Reserve, Indonesia. I would like to share about Cibodas Biosphere Reserve management, especially for branding product. Sampurasun. Sampurasun is mean greeting by Sundanese language, West Java, Indonesia. This is my outline. First, Biosphere Reserve in Indonesia. Second one, Cibodas Biosphere Reserve. And the last one, branding of Cibodas Biosphere Reserve. Currently, there are 19 biosphere reserve in Indonesia, namely, first one, Cibodas, Komodo, Tanjung Puting, Lorenindu, Siberut, and the last one, Karimun Jawa, Jepara Muria, Merapi, Merbabu Manore, with a total area of it's about 29 million hectares. Cibodas Biosphere Reserve, located in West Java, Indonesia. It's about 100 kilometers from Jakarta. Cibodas Biosphere Reserve was designated in 1977 by UNESCO, covering an area of 108,000 hectares, with Gunung Gede Pangrango National Park as the core area of the Cibodas Biosphere Reserve. The area of the Cibodas Biosphere Reserve, which is located in Bogor District, Sukabumi District, Jambu District, Sukabumi District, and Sukabumi City, West Java Province, increased to 167,000 hectares in 2012. This area has an important meaning in the hydrological cycle, where the remaining tropical forest on the hillside has a function as a rain catchment area. So if this area is destroyed, then the natural disaster and drought have the potential to occur. Cibodas Biosphere Reserve is one of the most important biosphere reserve in Indonesia, not only because of the rich and unique biodiversity and ecosystem, but also because the role it's play in the supply of water for the surrounding and in generating income for the local stakeholders, local communities, mainly through ecosystem-related activities. Cibodas Biosphere Reserve was expanded from what I mentioned before, 1977, 108,000 hectares, and 2012, 167 hectares. And then the boundaries in the past, province highway, and then 2012, boundaries of village area. This is flora of Cibodas Biosphere Reserve. Edelweiss, giant tree, fern, and then etc. Rafflesia also. And then here is the fauna of Cibodas: Javan leopard, Javan hawk eagle, Javan gibbon, fire frog, butterfly, and then etc. The Cibodas Biosphere Reserve institution was published in 2010 under the name Communication and Coordination Forum for the Management of the Cibodas Biosphere Reserve through of the decree of the Governor of West Java number 2010. The forum member come from the central government, government West Java province, government of district of Sukabumi, Bogor, and then Sukabumi district and Sukabumi city government, universities, NGOs, privates, and communities. The forum has 3 programs, namely conservation and research, community development, and sustainable development and eco-friendly. Cibodas Biosphere Management Directive, created in 2012 by International Tropical Timber Organization grant, our ITTO grant at Gunung Gede Pangrango National Park, through consultant activities for the creation of an integrated strategic management plan 2013 to 2018 with analyzed material from provincial, district, and Gunung Gede Pangrango National Park special plans. The management directive has a general title so that it can be adapted easily to the nomenclature of the stakeholder. The management directive, according to the CBR, Cibodas Biosphere Reserve Integrated Strategic Management Plan document, states that the activity that can be carried out in the, for instance, here divided 3 area. First, for the core area, research, and then ecotourism, conservation education, ecosystem services, ecosystem restoration. And for the buffer, it is similar but different with cultural heritage and watershed restoration. And then the transition area, ecotourism, conservation education, and then eco-friendly industry, eco-friendly settlement, and the last one, watershed restoration. Branding. Why branding? So the development of biosphere reserve product branding in principle is to increase the value of the product produced by the biosphere reserve area by utilizing its UNESCO biosphere reserve status. The status of a biosphere reserve determined by UNESCO is the international status of an area that is managed for sustainable development purposes. This very high, very prestigious and proud international status must be used to trigger the development of product produced by the biosphere reserve in order to increase the added value of this product in the hope of improving the quality of life of the people in the biosphere reserve area, especially for Cibodas Biosphere Reserve area. Biosphere Reserve product branding is to give the name, label, brand, certificate, symbol, product or services term produced by from the Biosphere Reserve area, especially for Cibodas Biosphere Reserve. Branding goals. First, Biosphere Reserve production, promotion, and introduction. Product value optimization, job opportunities, increase public knowledge, continuous promotion of business models, biosphere reserve product innovation, and sustainable management. As for what can be branded biosphere reserve are production result, such as food, farm, craft, etc., and services such as ecotourism, aesthetic, hobbies, and then transportation, and etc. Branding criteria, which are the product has been officially registered with the government, and then business sustainability. Product has business sustainability. Product can be upgraded to local biospheric signature product, and then eco-friendly product. The product process is carried out legally, and then branding can increase product quality and value. This is chart of the branding product procedure. The procedure for the branding submission stage starts from the making of the branding document by the proposer submitted to the Biosphere Reserve Management Forum, then forwarded to MAB UNESCO Indonesia National Committee. Furthermore, a special team was created to carry out verification, assessment, and decision making. During the plenary session of the result of the assessment whether it was appropriate to be given a branding certificate or postpone it for the repair. This is Indonesian Biosphere branding logo. For instance, here is Cibodas, Takabonerate, Komodo, Lorerindu, Samota, Saleh Moyo, Tambora, Karimun Jawa, and then etc. So I would like to share about Cibodas Biosphere branding, especially for Cibodas. Cibodas Biosphere logo and Cibodas Biosphere branding guideline established in 2016. The parties who get a CBR branding certificate can use the CBR logo on their products or services, apply for website, signboard, etc. as a branding. There are still few number of parties. It's about 6 parties who get CBR branding certificate due to the lack of understanding and socialization about CBR product branding by stakeholders. And then the last one, there are not yet regulation governing the management of biosphere reserve in Indonesia. This is one of the picture example for the logo can be applied on the product or services for the parties. Here is example for eco-friendly product. First, Tani Mandiri Farmer Group in Cianjur. They produce organic farming product and supply to organic company, big company, Simple Fresh, Healthy Veggie, Living Organic, and etc. And then the farmer group can get a benefit with a new price higher than before get certificate of applying the branding Cibodas. The second one, Kartini Women Group, Lemongrass Soap. They put the logo of Cibodas Biosphere on the covering product of lemongrass soap. Indong Women Group, dry vegetable soup instant, and then environmentally friendly service product. Edelweiss in Cibodas Cianjur guest house, and then Sangga Buana Resort and Convention Hotel, eco-friendly hotel. Another CBR branding report, Koperasi Mena Mukti Dahlia in Sukabumi district. They produce instant spice packaged drink for home industry. It is granting process, certificate ready to be given. And then Fontis Aquampipan in Sukabumi. The product is suspension bridge ecotourism. medium and large industry. It is branding submission process. And then the last one, array outdoor gear. Outdoor gear sustainable product, medium and large industry. It is scoping process and branding socialization. Message from Cibodas. Branding of Cibodas based reserve is one of the effort to improve the quality and quantity of the economy, social and culture for the community in the Cibodas based reserve, so that the community will be feel more benefit from the international title status of biosphere reserve given by UNESCO since 1977. Also, it is one of the socialization effort about the importance of the Cibodas biosphere for the community. Thank you for your attention. Special thanks for everyone. And then, of course, KNCU, Yang Changan, Republic of Korea, and maybe all of you. Thank you very much. Please turn on your mic, unmute, Professor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ayat, for a really interesting presentation from Java in Indonesia. It's really great to see the efforts that are now starting there to promote the biosphere label and to make the local population more aware of it, and also to allow them to get some benefit from this international designation. Now we're going to move to the panel discussion now. I'd like to introduce our additional panelist who's been invited for today's topic on his expertise. Is Professor Chun-Shik Kim of Dongching University, Republic of Korea. Professor Kim has conducted several projects to promote creative development based on the city's identity and cultural diversity by examining the city from the perspective of the humanities and the arts, as well as from a spatial perspective. He received a PhD in philosophy from the University of Hamburg in Germany, and has served as a lecture professor in history at the same university. With his multidisciplinary expertise in history, politics, and education, he has led cultural city projects in the Republic of Korea cities of Pohang and Naju, and he has also participated in the Gyeongju Yonglong Village World Heritage Project. Please give him a warm welcome, and Professor Kim, if you have any thoughts on today's presentation or topics in general, please let us know. I'm sure your experience of World Heritage and the identity development of cities in the Republic of Korea could offer some useful insights.
네, 안녕하십니까. 저는 김춘식입니다.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As introduced, my name is Kim Jun-sik. It's an honor to be here at the 2022 online thematic seminar on management challenges of IDAs. I know this is a very meaningful and important event. I'd like to first thank the keynote speaker and the two case presenters.
원래 제 전공이
I studied in history, but I also studied geology and anthropology, quite a multidisciplinary approach from the beginning in my studies as well. And of course, I have a large interest in education. Now, I was told that my role is to talk about the identity and the branding about IDAs. First of all, let me comment on Patrick McKeever's keynote speech. Thank you so much for your detailed presentations and the examples that you've showed us. It was a very comprehensive speech, starting with the definition, designation of World Heritage Sites, and also follow-up, the UNESCO Geopark checklist and the different criteria that are needed. It was a very in-depth presentation that gave us a very good bird's eye view. I was most
주민들, 특히 유네스코 지질공원의
impressed by the fact that you talked about the importance about the geoparks, and you gave us a lot of important keywords as well, especially on the marketing side. When we talk about branding, the most important key factor about branding in the past and now still remains the fact that good branding equates people's values, humanity's values. Of course, geoparks are important in and of themselves, but when you add the geological values to the concept of park, the geopark is no longer just a park. It also impacts the local residents' lives and reflects their identity, their spirit, and their community as well. So it's all interlinked. In that sense, the local residents, the farmers, and their branding, and pulling that all together is extremely important. As Professor McKeever said, thank you for those very important messages. And I actually lived in Gerolstein in Germany for about 2 to 3 years. I'm very well aware of that region. I know that it's a gemstone of a nature landscape combining people, cultural values, and some new additional values as well as geological values.
And I see that the name has changed. Even the authority has changed its name from Don to the name of a geological park to really show and highlight the identity. Identity is not stationary, it's dynamic and it's evolving. And it's constantly evolving. And it's a constant steps of the discovery. So I think when it comes to the geological part or the geoparks, I believe that actually we designs the city that surrounds the geopark. And so that I believe is something of a high implication. And I think that can also be applied in Korea as well. We know that in Yeoncheon, this area has a variety of heritages and the cultures. And of those, Yeoncheon also has a great geopark and geological values. And I have no doubt that this is something that's going to help Yeoncheon be constantly inspired and constantly be really evaluated with the great values going forward. So I believe that the keynote speech was very valuable and very relevant to what we studied. So once again, I want to thank our keynote speaker. And also,
And next off, we heard about Norway's Magma UNESCO Global Geopark. The case is about how the geopark has added to tourism, education programs, research, and innovation as well, bringing together the local community's values. And so it's a very comprehensive, systematic, well-organized program that we can see the local foods, local culture that are embedded into all of these activities, including festivals and education programs. Everything ties in together to create a consistent cultural and geological map of sorts. So thank you for introducing us to the Magma Global Geopark and sharing with us the effective initiatives towards achieving sustainable development and aligning your efforts with the SDGs as well. Thank you for that very meaningful presentation. You seem to also provide a lot of different convenient facilities, and you use logos as well to brand and raise awareness. And you said that you use storytelling about the local residents to promote and communicate the values of the global geopark. You also said you work with the communities in the vicinity of Magma Global Geopark to create a lot of additional and very meaningful added value. Above all else, sustainable value can be delivered by global geoparks only when we work together with different partners and communities, different stakeholders, economic players in that arena. Identity and the values of geoparks ties in together, and the basis for that is the cultural and economic values. We even have the term culture economics. The resources that we have at the local level, especially the geological values that global geoparks have to offer, tie in together as cultural values and also economic values. Cultural values and economic values are not siloed, they're not separate. They come together to create something really special, to coordinate and create synergies. In the end, this is what creates sustainable biosphere reserves, sustainable global geoparks, and sustainable IDAs as well. Now, I'd like to highlight the economic side because the economics of everything is indispensable to us. However, if we fixate too much on the economic values, then this can actually erode the value that these types of natural heritage and geological values have to the local communities. We sacrifice their quality of lives as well. So thank you for giving us a very well-balanced view, and I'd like to once again talk about the local communities, the resources, the local resources, and the local economy. It all comes down to the culture, geological values in the local communities because these are things that we have to preserve. We should never concede on these values, which is why we need to create autonomous, local community-led preservation efforts so that they can create not just economic value, but cultural economic values.
Now, on the last case presentation, which was in Indonesia, he is very much involved in the national geopark management, so he knows ins and outs of what it takes to run and operate national parks and biosphere reserves. And yes, the branding objectives are explained and the procedures of it. And the results, the benefits of it were mentioned by our speaker. And I see that it's very transparent, very systematic, and very much focused on local residents, which was very impressive to me. So I think overall, I would say that from the keynote speech to the two case presentations that we heard today, I think it was very well aligned and very insightful. Last but not least, I just want to emphasize that a good branding means that the community sense and the value of the local residents must be encompassed. And also there's a technical point of view, like the logo, combined logo, or something that appeals to the people outside, and which also means the communication network. So this is a technical part. And I believe that the UNESCO World Heritage and there are many organizations that can actually do for management of it. So last but not least, let me just add my take on this. For food and any branding, in fact, for any branding, I think food becomes quite important, and that's a natural consequence because when it comes to food, it's not, if you look just at the global geopark, well, nature is composed of earth, the soil, the air, all of that is the foundation, and that produces food that is most unique to the area. So food is therefore one of the most important factor there. Like in Genolstein, for example, there are some other things that can be branded, but I believe the agriculture produce, like the food, is one that can be easily accessed and one can easily be branded and successful. So in 21 countries, there are 34 groups that are participating in this. So using that platform, I believe information sharing can become very active. And I thought a project like that, an information sharing project, would require more technical part. For example, extended reality, or even like a metaverse or 3D technology could be used to make this kind of platform more dynamic, even utilizing the cultural aspects to it. So to maybe something like a platform that includes the residents at the very heart of it at the global geoparks. That's something that I would like to propose. So where this is something that all the information can be shared and distributed. Okay?
I think we need to move on to some questions. Professor Kim, you may be interested to know that just a few weeks ago, I was in Republic of Korea in Busan. Busan has applied to become, the metropolitan area has applied to become a UNESCO Global Geopark. If it succeeds, it would be the biggest urban geopark, though there are two others. One in England includes about a quarter of the city of Birmingham, which is the UK's biggest city outside London. So maybe those are two places you might want to have a look at some stage. There's been some comments in the chat box we have from Vilma Ratovara in Finland, that I guess that's Finland, that she says that the UNESCO rebranding is great and the new logos look good. She said most people in Finland are indeed very aware of UNESCO and a very positive view of UNESCO, but the Biosphere Reserve label is not well understood. It's not well known. So she's hoping that this new branding from UNESCO could be very important indeed. She said that also that many biosphere reserves have partnership networks, and there needs to be clear guidance that the logo is not misused. Well, I think we can see that from Chupadas, that they have put together quite a comprehensive methodology to look at the branding issue. Annie Rasios from Greece agrees. And then we have Catherine Sibian, who wants to know, can you find information on the use of the logo for biosphere reserves? Indeed you can, because it's actually, if you go into the UNESCO homepage and just look at branding, there's a brand new document, a template for all of the designations and all of the programs and all of the activities of UNESCO. So you just need to go into the UNESCO website to have a look for that. And finally, Huang Tao from Lushan in China. Thanks, Sarah, very, very much for her fantastic presentation. And he wants to know how you can apply for the GeoFood brand for a company within the Geopark, and if you could provide that information. So that would actually bring me quite nicely to one of the questions I wanted to ask, which is very similar to the last one there. And it's really, this is for GeoFood in particular, and I'll come on to Sibadas in a minute. But Sarah, you've got common criteria for GeoFood across the world. Now, I'm thinking of cuisine and food in China and Brazil and Canada and Iceland and Malaysia, and it's also different, and the cultures are also different. The way people cook are different, and experiences are different. So how do you actually define common criteria for this? And for the issue of Lushan, how could they apply for this label? Maybe you could just explain.
Well, the initiative started in 2015 as a Nordic project, and as Italian, we face immediately this problem, because I was I grew up in Italy with the mindset of Italian agriculture and Italian weather condition. And suddenly I was working with Rukwa and Denmark and Katla and Magma Geopark in Norway to try to find out which kind of food could be could be selected and which kind of methodology we should use. And it has been a long discussion that also involved since the beginning Naturtegio in Portugal and other friend to try to find out. And in the end, we decided to keep the criteria rather wide. That means that we thought since the beginning that being a member of the Global Geopark Network and UNESCO Global Geopark was a guarantee of quality enough and specifically linked to the raw material. The main issue is that is basically resourced within the border of the UNESCO Global Geopark itself. We like to support producer that use as less pesticide, as less chemical as possible. It is not overlapping any organic label. It's nothing to do with that. We don't not require to be organic. Of course, we try to support sustainable agriculture. So basically the raw material should not be, as I said, full of chemicals. Yes, and the main thing is that has to come from the border of the geopark in order to reduce the kilometry, the distance where the raw material comes.
So the product must come from inside the geopark. Yeah,
yes, there could be a few exceptions where a geopark can ask to have a narrow buffer zone, but has to be motivated from the fact that that is needed. Like for instance, in Cliff of Fundy, they asked to have a buffer zone that goes into the sea because they like to fish in that area. And then there are cases like that, and we analyze it from time to time. Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Hidiat from Chibadas, you've been a biosphere reserve since 1977, so that's quite a long time. But you are now implementing this branding. You've started in 2016. Has it actually started? Is the branding now visible? What is the view of the local people regarding this? Are they becoming more aware that they live in a very special area?
Okay, thank you very much. So that's right. The Chibodas established, designated by UNESCO in 1977, and then the institution for the CBR management established in 2010.
Could I ask all the online participants to mute, please? Except for the speaker, please. Thank you.
Okay, can I?
That's it.
Okay. Yes. So this is our problem. In the past, 1977 to 2010, what I mentioned before, our government not have yet the regulation about biosphere management. So the Chibodas is the first biosphere reserve start how to improve the biosphere reserve management by government decree as established as a forum for manage a biosphere reserve. So the challenge for the forum, because a lot of stakeholders, not only one government, but a lot of government, national government, district government, province government, NGO, university. So the forum is not strong yet with the other institution. For instance, for council or more than the forum. So after establish the forum, but the local people still not uh, get benefit from the international designated area. So how to improve it? We try to establish a guideline for how to implement branding status of international designated area, especially for biosphere reserve. So the guideline purpose how to improve the local product for the quality, quantity, and then the value of the product to be from local to be national to be international. So this is the point how to improve that, and then they finally feel okay. The designation area status is important, and then can get a benefit from it. So this is our homework, big homework, how to how to realize the local community feel okay, I'm here in international designated area or in biosphere. So I hope from everyone here can be support us. Thank you very much, Professor Kim, Professor Patrick. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Idiot. I think the problem you're facing is the same problem, of course, we've all faced in our geoparks as well. But we have many good examples now and lots of experience that the geoparks would love to share with you. Because I think it's important that the UNESCO designated sites talk to each other. Geoparks talking to both World Heritage and Biosphere. So certainly get in touch, and I can put you in contact with some geoparks who've been very successful. Professor, I'm going to open the floor now. So if anybody across the world has any questions, I see that Rona Breach has, but before that, Rona, I'm just going to ask Professor Kim, does he have any questions? And then I'll get back to you. Professor Kim.
예, 질문 좀 드리고 싶은 게 아까
Well, I do have a few questions for you, especially about branding activities. I believe that we need a network for these types of branding activities. The title of the seminar is about the management challenges, and in day 2, we're talking about the challenges regarding identity and branding. So in line with that,
하는 그런 경기도 연천군에 같은 경우는 지금 지역
Yeoncheon-gun is working with the local stakeholders that I've heard, and I think that is very encouraging to really work with the local activists, the local stakeholders. And so I'm curious about what these local players and local agents need to do in terms of capacity building. What types of capacity and talents do they need to have? Can you tell us some specific cases and experiences about how you've leveraged the local players, the local community people in these types of branding and identity activities?
I can certainly answer that from my experience in Ireland. I use the example of both the Cuilcagh Lakelands Geopark and the Berlin Geopark is simply that even before they were designated, the people who were seeking the designation ran many community workshops. They went into community halls, they went and spoke to farmers, they took questions, they took concerns from the people. They made sure that they weren't going to apply unless the people understood what it was, unless the people wanted. I think that's fundamental, because I don't know in all countries, but certainly in many European countries now, there's a move against protected areas because it's viewed as bringing restrictions to people's lives. So I think it was important in this process that it was explained to the people that there are no restrictions. This could benefit you, no guarantee, but it could. So I think that's one of the things that has worked very well. And also in the geoparks, again, in the Burren in Ireland, they have this code of practice. And you saw all the local people, the farmers, with the certificates. We saw the same thing in Magma. So I think that's one way of doing it. Now I'm going to come to Ronja Brecht. Ronja, the floor is yours. Maybe you would just tell us who you are, where you are.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm a student and I study Biosphere Reserve Management in Germany at the University for Sustainable Development in Eberswalde. And currently I'm in my research semester in Kazakhstan, and we are in a biosphere reserve, and we want to focus on community engagement of the farming society. And we want to look what actions are taking place by the biosphere reserve to support the interests of the local farmers within the transition zone. And as far as our research went, nobody within the area is aware that they live in a biosphere reserve. So we kind of want to have an idea what could be the first steps or what might be the process of putting up signs to raise awareness. Maybe you have an idea.
Yeah, no, it's a very important issue, and it's certainly something that, of course, I mentioned it for the geoparks. The branding, it may seem, the signage may seem inconsequential, but actually that's the mechanism to make sure that local people and visitors are indeed aware that they live inside one of these protected areas. And I think you can see that happening now in Shibadas in Java, where they have started that process. The awareness amongst the local people that they're living in an internationally designated area is rising, that this mechanism, this designation is a method that they could use to bring sustainable, proper economic sustainable development. Of course, remembering that not everything is about economic value. That's a very important thing as well. And I think that, again, there are many examples within geoparks and increasingly now within biosphere reserves that could really assist you in Kazakhstan. At the moment, they don't have any geoparks. They tried for one a few years ago. But I mean, just north of you in Bashkortostan in the Russian Federation, you have the Yangantau geopark, and it could be a good idea to maybe engage with them. And this also brings me on to a point that Vilma Ledvara from Finland has just put in the chat. She said, has there ever been an online forum or website for any of these designations, for the 3 site designations, where we could ask anybody from the community ideas on this, how this problem can be solved? Or is there something like this existing nationally? I know that in Korea, in Jeju, they have what's called a Category 2 UNESCO Center, specifically to look at this issue. Of course, we had the pandemic, so nothing really could happen for the last few years. But maybe this is something that the center in Korea and Jeju could initiate. I'm going to ask now my other 3 colleagues if they have any comments on Ronja's question from Kazakhstan via Germany. Sarah, Harriet, Professor Kim, any comment about that question?
It is a very good question, and it is a big challenge. I think it's the challenge that at least for sure Magma Geopark has faced at the beginning and is facing all the time. But yes, as you said, there are good tools to learn from each other, and I think we are all here to try to support each other. So it's for sure a good start to sharing good practice and good examples. So
yeah, it's a wonderful idea to have this seminar, and many thanks again to the Korean National Commission. And again, maybe I reach out to Jeju, to this Category 2 Center, to maybe, if the National Commission can share some of these comments with the center in Jeju, that could be useful to see what could happen in the future. Now, are there any other questions from the floor?
May I, Professor?
Yes, yes, please, go ahead.
Yes, I am with you. This is the big challenge about awareness in our for the community, especially for international designated area. So, for instance, one of the strategy, I think the branding is one of strategy how to increase the awareness of a local community to put the economic value in their product or in their livelihood to improve there by designated branding international designated area. And then what you mentioned before, how to uh, lesson learn or best practices from the others international designated area. It's a good point. For instance, is it possible if we make it's like sister biosphere reserve or sister global geopark or from Indonesia with the other country, etc. Is it possible or not? But this is only my my opinion. Thank you, Professor.
Well, actually, within the geoparks, there are many geoparks that have the sister relationships. Many, usually between geoparks in different countries, but they're very common. And we see, for example, between Hong Kong and Japan, great exchanges, even of school children going to each other's country to learn about their different cultures, and many exchanges are happening. We don't have any, as far as I'm aware, we don't have any sister relationships outside the geoparks. I mean, between geoparks and World Heritage Site, geoparks and biosphere reserves, and it's absolutely something we should be looking at. And again, I have to hand it over to the Category 2 Centre on Jeju, as maybe this is really something that they could look into, really. I think it's a wonderful idea. Because I mean, you said about the geopark. I mean, I saw all the logos of the biosphere reserves in Indonesia, and I saw Rinjani Lombok, and I've been twice in Rinjani Lombok within the last 6 years. Most recently, 2019, just before the pandemic, there was a big geopark conference there. I had no idea it was a biosphere reserve. There was nothing, no signage, nothing to tell me that. And so I think they could also learn a lot from your experience in Chibodas. Any other comments or questions? We've got 5 minutes left. Anything from the floor? You know, I see people from Nigeria, Peru, Nepal, Russia. There must be some questions. Some of our colleagues in Spain, Mexico. No? Does anybody have any final comments from the panel? Professor Kim, any final comments?
네, 기회를 주셔서 감사드립니다.
Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It was immensely interesting and an honor, really, to learn about these different cases. And it was a great learning experience, very informative. As I said before, there are some things that I did have to skip over because of time constraints. Well, one thing is about the networks that I talked about,
네, 거의 식품의 경우에
which ties in with the questions that were asked as well. Regarding food, mostly they are traditional food. So overseas, these traditional foods may be very unfamiliar and alien to a lot of people. And in that sense, the UNESCO Global Geoparks and their programs and activities, whether they are tailored to food, arts, or culture, I think they need to be a little bit more tailored, a little bit more narrow, in the sense that we share them with each other to try to also utilize digital technology in that effort as well. And of course, the global geopark, local residents, their cultures, the information that really pertains to the local economy as well. They need to be shared actively, and these types of cases need to be shared overseas as well. And I think in that process of sharing these cases with each other, it would be great to sort of categorize whether it be culture, arts, as I said before, and that will go a long way in strengthening the solidarity between the local community residents as well. As I said before, a local capacity is extremely important. They are living in these geoparks, so they need to be not just interested in geoparks. They need to have ownership. They also need to have a little bit of professional knowledge, and that will go such a long way in improving the overall activities and programs that we offer. And we need to also focus on the activists, the agents in the communities that can really lead the programs and activities and spread the word. It's the same with whether it be culture, natural preservation, or whatever it may be. Sustainability also all comes down to leaning on each other, working together. And so once again, I would like to emphasize the importance of cooperation and partnership networks. That is all I have on my side. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Kimmer. We're kind of run out of time now, and I think we need to let Mr. Harriat get on with his work and Dr. Gentilini get on with her holiday. There's just a few more comments here. So, and one is very pertinent, I think. I mentioned it earlier, it's from Annie Rasios, Dr. Rasios in Greece. And it's just that how much she appreciates this Zoom meeting that gives access to anybody around the world. We did these meetings during the pandemic amongst the geoparks because we couldn't meet physically, and they were a great way for us to continue our cooperation, to keep in contact, to share ideas about how to cope during the pandemic when all the tourism was shut down. And also, of course, it meant we weren't flying everywhere. We weren't contributing to climate change, except, of course, for the electricity we use on this. So I think the pandemic has actually shown us that we can do these things very successfully remotely. I also get from Sigurður Sveinsson in Iceland at the Katla Geopark. It might be of interest that the Icelandic UNESCO Commission has a UNESCO Day every year, and actually their UNESCO Day is going to happen tomorrow at Thingvellir, World Heritage Site, which is where the site of the first Icelandic Parliament, and of course where the tectonic plates are moving apart. Sarah has posted in the chat some information of how you can get in touch with her. And we have a message from the Gambian National Commission about doing a joint inscription with Senegal in the Niumi Saloum Delta. Wonderful idea. Now, just before we go, you know that there has been an online poll, a Mentimeter question for this day 2 of the seminar. And it asked, what are the top 2 priorities that should be considered when using the UNESCO and the site designation brand in local communities? So the most important, according to the respondents, was the sustainable development of local traditions, value, and culture. That should be the top priority when you consider using the brand. Second, I think they've come in joint second, is actually sustainable economic growth through local products and conservation of the natural ecosystem, geosystem, I guess, as well. And closely behind was the promotion of local residents' awareness of sustainability. I think for each of the 3 labels, you would probably get some different answers depending on which label you're talking about. But as it says in Irish, that's it. That's all from me. I again want to thank the NatCom in Seoul for all they've done for this. It's been really quite wonderful. And I'll give a very warm 감사합니다 to Sandy, and I'm going to hand back to the people from the National Commission of Korea. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor McKeeb, and thank you all the presenters and participants who have taken part in today's seminar. Today's theme also very interesting, and we had very fruitful discussion. This is the end of the second day of the seminar. Tomorrow's session is the last day of the online seminar. We'll begin at 16 o'clock Seoul time, just like today. The topic will be management of internationally designated areas and involvement of the local community. We encourage you to come back once again for further insightful presentations and discussions. We are looking forward to meeting you tomorrow again. And thank you very much and have a good day. 감사합니다.
감사합니다.